Hello, and welcome to Life Diaries, a space where the pages of life open up, one story at a time. These are tales written by experience, spoken from the heart. Take a moment for yourself, and let's begin. Morning silently entered its domain in the quiet, fading village. Rooster calls echoed through the surroundings. Cows mooed impatiently, anticipating being driven out to the lush meadows. At the village crossroads, each by their own gate, cats sat in groups, washing themselves and warming up in the first rays. Life was awakening, but for those who still remained here, this morning brought no solace. The village was slowly dying out. Many of the few houses stood empty, their windows long dark, like eyes devoid of life. In one such house, an old man, pulling on his familiar tracksuit, began his day. His face bore the mark of deep weariness and some kind of inner brokenness, despite the sleep he had just had. "Where are you off to so early?" his wife called out to him, raising herself on the bed. The elderly woman, seeing that her husband was getting ready, also started to get up. "I'm going to the miller's," the old man grumbled. "For the dog. They dumped the dog and were glad of it. They moved away. And he's there, the poor thing, suffering on a chain from fear and hunger. They swore they'd take him. What kind of people have they become, honestly? Not people at all." He fumed as he got ready. He went out, slamming the door. His wife, without rushing, got up, put on her slippers, shook off the remnants of sleep, and headed to the kitchen. She put porridge on to cook, for herself, for her husband, and separately for the dog, a rich broth with bones. She took the bones out later, leaving the food to cool. Her husband still wasn't back. He was probably busy freeing the dog from captivity. Suddenly, a joyful yelp sounded from outside, and a moment later, a shaggy teenager burst into the kitchen like a whirlwind, stopping only at the table. The adolescent dog looked at the mistress in fright, flattened his ears against his black muzzle, shrank to the floor, and backed towards the door. "Stay, silly. Don't be afraid. Here, look, what delicious porridge, made with meat broth," the old woman said gently, placing a bowl on the floor. The dog eyed her distrustfully, but hunger took over. He straightened up, approached hesitantly, greedily snatched the largest piece of meat from the bowl, and then finished the rest in a matter of seconds. Full and content, the puppy curled up on the rug and immediately fell asleep. Soon, the master returned. He gently stroked the sleeping dog and sat down at the table. Following him came their old friend, David. The three of them had breakfast. And although spring was blooming outside, flooding everything with light and promising renewal, the conversation didn't flow. It was heavy and joyless. "My son called yesterday," David began, his voice sounding tired and hollow. "He asked how we were doing here. I told him straight. Things are bad, our village is dying. He says, 'Drop everything, move to the city, I'll rent you an apartment there.' And I'm thinking, he's probably right. What is there to catch here? What's the point of waiting? The last shop closed, we're sitting here like on an island, waiting for who knows what. We have to admit, there's no life here anymore. I tell my Linda, 'Let's go.' But she won't budge. She's rooted to the land, and that's that. So we stay. We don't have children. We buried them all earlier. And what would we do in the city? Look at strangers? We bent our backs our whole lives. And for what? Our pensions are peanuts. If we rent an apartment, we'll starve to death. So we decided, we're staying. Our farm is strong. The garden will feed us. We'll get by on our own land somehow, with what God sends." Arthur finished, his words hanging in the air. Arthur took out a hand-rolled cigarette and lit it. Going out into the yard, he and David sat down on the old carved bench by the house wall. Leaning back, They almost simultaneously exhaled streams of smoke into the air. "Maybe I would send my wife to the city and stay myself," Arthur said quietly. "But where would she go? She won't. We know that everyone's path leads there, but you don't want to live out your days here alone." They sat, smoking, lost in gloomy thoughts. Soon, David got up and left. The couple remained alone, their conversation returning again to the farm, to the livestock, to fears that the land would stop yielding. All their thoughts revolved around one pain: their dying village. The day passed as usual, in the familiar chores around the farm and garden. In the evening, they went for a walk. They walked down the street, and every step confirmed their worst fears. More and more houses stood abandoned, with empty window sockets. The dog, still not settled in, timidly clung to the legs of its new masters. When it got completely dark, the village revealed its unsightly truth. Streetlights burned only here and there, every other one, or even less often. "How will we stay here alone?" Martha asked quietly, pressing against her husband's shoulder. "Let's sit over there, by the abandoned house," she suggested. Lush lilac bloomed over the leaning bench, releasing a sweet fragrance into the darkening air. After sitting in silence for a while, the couple headed home. They had barely closed the creaky gate behind them when a young man literally flew into the yard. He was out of breath, his eyes full of terror. "For Christ's sake, hide me! I beg you! I'll give you everything I have, just hide me!" he pleaded, falling to his knees. The old couple exchanged glances. Without a second thought, the old man grabbed the young man and, almost dragging him, pulled him across the yard, ignoring how the stranger's knees scraped on the grass. "Martha, quickly, into the house," he sharply commanded his wife. And to the young man he barked, "Quietly and follow me, quickly." They quickly crossed the yard and headed towards the far greenhouse. There, behind a tall shelving unit heavily laden with potted plants, the old man hid the stranger. He moved another shelving unit with garden tools next to it, creating a secure hiding place. "Sit quiet as a mouse, not a sound until I come for you myself," he whispered. They didn't have to wait long. The old man returned to the house and heard a group of people in dark uniforms moving down the street, banging on every gate in turn. Now they stopped at their green gate. The old man took a deep breath, trying to calm his trembling. He went out to meet them, raising his eyes to their stern, impassive faces. "Times are restless now," Arthur began, pretending to be a simple old man. "What do you need, lads?" He spoke kindly, a little naively. "We're not rich here, Little Food. Maybe we can give you apples or milk. And there's nowhere to spend the night. Our little house is small. My wife here is ailing. You'd better go to the Millers. They abandoned their house. There's plenty of room there." "Don't get in the way, old man!" one of them barked rudely. "We're looking for a type here. Seen a young man, fair-haired?" He pushed the old man aside. "Let me pass. We'll look ourselves." They entered the yard without ceremony, holding their automatic weapons ready. They went around the house, searched the entire yard, reached the greenhouses. They turned over everything they could. But the shelving unit behind which the young man was hiding did not attract them. It stood so close to the wall, stacked with pots, that it seemed simply part of the furniture, not arousing suspicion. One of the thugs, dissatisfied with the lack of results, turned to the old man. "We'll be poking around your village for 3 days. If we don't find our falcon, you'll have yourselves to blame. And if you find him yourself, let us know. The reward will be generous," he hissed, looking around the greenhouse one last time. Soon the whole suspicious company disappeared behind the gate. Arthur sank straight onto the grass. Only now, when the danger had passed, did a sticky, all-consuming fear wash over him. He sat, holding his head in his hands, trying to grasp what he had gotten involved in and who he must be hiding if such thugs were hunting him. The old man got up, turned off the light in the yard, and headed to the greenhouse. The darkness was impenetrable. You couldn't see a thing. He led the young man out, guided him along the trees to the back wall of the house, where he could climb in through a window. The old man himself went around the house, entered through the front door, turning off the street lamp by the porch. Entering the house, Arthur said quietly, "Martha, don't turn on the light. We'll feed the young man in the living room. You can't see from the window there." Then he turned to the stranger. "Now tell me, young man, what kind of business are they looking for you with automatic weapons for? Look, don't even think about lying. If you're a murderer or some kind of bandit, I'll hand you over myself. There's no place for people like that in my house." "My father is a wealthy man, a businessman," the young man began, his voice trembling. "But things went bad. The business started collapsing like a house of cards. Money was needed urgently, no matter what. He borrowed from these people, and he didn't pay it back. So they decided to get to him through me. As soon as I found out they were hunting me, I grabbed the car and sped out of the city. I abandoned it, camouflaged it with branches in some yard. I thought, that's it, my end has come. And then I saw you, and decided to ask for help. Believe me, I will never forget your kindness." The young man spent 3 days in the house, hiding from prying eyes. He moved cautiously, crouching under windows, trying to remain unseen. During this time, the bandits came only once. "Why is it so dark here, old man? Aren't you turning on the light?" one of them inquired. The old man just waved his hand. "We're saving money, son. You know what the pension is like, and paying for electricity. You'd go broke. It grows like mushrooms." They believed him and left. Early in the morning on the 4th day, Martha was preparing the young man for his journey. She cut off a generous piece of homemade cheese, put in some apples, a large slice of bread, added boiled eggs, and a small bag of salt. She packed all this into the old man's backpack and handed it to the young man. He could barely hold back tears. These strangers had not only saved him, but also taken care of him, packed him food for the road. The previous night, he and Arthur had spent discussing a safe route. The young man warmly said goodbye to his saviors and left. 15 years passed. That story with the fugitive had faded from memory like a bad dream. Grandma Martha sat on the bench in the yard, a basket of apples beside her. It was hard to get up. Her legs felt like lead. Weariness pressed down. Weariness from the endless daily labor. The garden yielded almost nothing. They had long since gotten rid of the livestock. The village was completely deserted. They were practically the only residents left. Grandpa Arthur had also declined, years taking their toll. He less and less often found the strength to patch up the house, dig in the garden, take care of the yard. "This is how it is, Art." Martha sighed heavily. "We'll probably die on these apples. It's good our apple tree still bears fruit. Otherwise, we would have starved to death completely." "Maybe we can walk through the abandoned gardens, look for something?" Arthur suggested. Lately, this had become their bitter habit, wandering through the deserted yards in search of any food at all. But the supplies of former neighbors were not eternal either. They both understood. They were unlikely to last until winter. They sat, remembering their youth, their former strength, the times when the village was alive. The conversation was interrupted by the creak of the gate. A man entered the yard confidently. He looked at the old couple with a wide, warm smile, as if they were the dearest people he hadn't seen for many years. At that very moment, the old couple, as if on command, rushed towards him, embracing him. Memory obligingly brought up the picture from 15 years ago, that frightened young man whom they, risking everything, had hidden from the bandits. Aunt Martha, Uncle Art, get ready, he exclaimed, his voice sounding firm and joyful. That's it. You won't return to this house anymore. You saved my life back then. I won't leave you here to die now. I am finally free from all problems. I can openly help you. Pack the most important things, and let's go. I have a big car, with a trailer. Everything will fit. Leave the furniture. Everything is already there. This was Ethan. He looked at them with such sincere love and care that the old couple didn't hesitate for a second. And honestly, they had no choice. In a couple of hours, they gathered everything most precious: clothes, books, faded photo albums, little things dear to their hearts. Before getting into the car, the couple went to the far corner of the yard. They stopped by a small mound where they had buried their faithful dog 2 years earlier. They remembered him, the mischievous puppy, saved from hunger, and couldn't hold back tears. They quietly said goodbye and returned to the waiting car. In the car, they sat holding hands tightly and drove almost the entire way in silence, not knowing where or why they were being taken. The car drove more than 100 kilometers and suddenly entered a beautiful, well-maintained village, full of life and people. Grandma Martha couldn't hold back tears, looking at this miracle. They stopped at a cozy single-story house, surrounded by a small yard drowning in flowers. Ethan turned to them with a radiant smile. "Now you are my grandma and grandpa," he said. "Accept a gift from your grandson." He became more serious. "If it weren't for you, I would have been killed then. I will never forget that. This house is yours now, and don't worry about money. Here's a card." He held out a plastic card. "There will always be enough on it. Don't deny yourselves anything, absolutely anything." He gestured around the house and yard. "Well, I've said what I wanted to say. Look around, this is yours now." Grandpa Arthur got out of the car, helped Martha. Holding hands, they slowly went to inspect their new possessions. The house was bright, spacious, with modern renovations. A large open veranda, a barbecue, a small garden, a neat little greenhouse for greens. And the front garden was a real sea of fragrant roses. "Ethan," Martha said, hugging him, "you say we saved you, but it's you who pulled us out of starvation." Ethan looked absolutely happy. "I'll visit often," he smiled. "Every week, I promise. I'm not far from here, in the city, so look forward to guests." He was genuinely glad that he could thank these simple, kind people who had saved his life. Ethan got into the car and drove away, leaving the old couple alone in their new home. They went inside, sat down on the sofa, and, without a word, began to cry. From what they had been through, from relief, from immense, unexpected happiness.